Hey up everybody, welcome back to the Audio Cycling YouTube channel, where today we're going to be taking a look at the penultimate race of the Velogames Superclasico. It is the Giro del Veneto, a category 3 race, and it's only the Veneto Classic that comes after this, which is on the 20th, so that'll be this weekend. So be sure to stick around if you really wanted to, we wanted to finish this off strong. And I think I'll just prerequisite this video and say that I honestly don't think that the winning team will be 100 credits here. You can make a team that's worth 100 credits, but I don't think that you need to use all 100. I mean, in Il Lombardia, I would have been much better off going with the logical choice of Mass over Jorgensen, but I went with Matteo Jorgensen instead, so it would have been better if I would have used 98 credits on that day. But let's talk about today's video and today's race, which is the Giro del Veneto. Mark Hirschi, I mean, it's an Italian .pro race, and therefore Mark Hirschi must be strongly considered in everybody's team. Looking at UAE Team Emirates' lineup as well, it looks like it's going to be in for Hirschi. And before we go any further, this is what the profile looks like for the day. 167 kilometers, 1,700 meters of altitude gain. Very much one for the punchers. You kind of do this lap circuit, which goes up the Monte Berchio, 1.1 kilometers at 7%. I don't know what this final lump is, but we saw last year, I think it was Godon won ahead of, I think that was maybe like Corbin Strong, Florian Vermeersch, after a strong gravel campaign, was in third. And it's just one for the punchers, basically. So that's really what you're going to be looking at. And Hirschi is the absolute definition of a puncher. And in the last couple of races before he moves over to Tudor Pro Cycling, I reckon he'll be looking to go out on a bank. So I think Hirschi is one that is almost the safest one to be taking of everybody. Matthews, on the other hand, I think a lot of people will be tempted to take Matthews, but in all reality, he hasn't shown that great form recently. Obviously, the last race where he really did well was in the Grand Prix of Quebec, and then before then it was the Bretagne Classic. Whereas Matthews since then, especially in some of the Italian races and World Champs and stuff, just hasn't really been there. It's like he's kind of, I don't know, at this point of the season it's really hard, I guess, as a rider, just to keep the motivation going and keep the legs going. Michael Matthews in good form would be absolutely eating up this parkour. It's just whether you think that he's in that sort of form, because the recent results don't really suggest that. But this is a race where people can really come out of nowhere and do something. Yeah, I remember like Samuele Battistella last year came 7th in this race after DNFing or doing really badly in his previous 8 races or something. So obviously it looks like riders can really come out of nowhere and do well here. Groves is very similar to Matthews. Hasn't really looked in that great form since the Vuelta finished. His results have just been a little bit underwhelming. I think Albson have other options here who are cheaper than him, and I honestly would favour those other riders. Again, Groves just looks like he's sort of done with the season and he just wants out. And I think that there are other riders on their team, specifically like Zandlo Morlisa, who would be more motivated because he's looking in good form, and I think they'd be more likely to go with him. Ulissi, again, he's leaving UAE Team Emirates, going to Astana, but I think they'll be working for Hirschi. Formulo, he won the Veneto Classic last year, not this race, the one that's happening later this week. So this race is just too much. It focuses too much on the sprint in the finish, and Formulo just doesn't really have that. So I don't think Formulo is going to be that good of a one for this race, but maybe at the weekend it'll be better. Tobias Harland-Johannesson, he was good in this race last year. He's honestly quite a good puncher. I'd consider him to be very much in between a puncher and a climber. Very much kind of like Alaphilippe from back in the day. And I think that, Johannesson's another safe one to be picking. And I think that, a mixture of him, Hirschi, and also probably Corbin Strong would be a really good trio to build the foundation of your team on. Corbin Strong has obviously looked good recently. What was he? 2nd or 3rd in Benocchi? Gran Piemonte, or was it? It was Gran Piemonte. It was the one which Paulus won. So Corbin Strong, obviously, yeah, he's a good one. And Israel Premier Tech, I don't think, have anybody else who they'd be really going with. Corbin Strong is the obvious choice. Rota, Yeah, I mean, maybe he'll come top 15, but I think there are riders who'll be doing better than him personally. 14 credit riders, Gregoire, I think he makes sense. You know, Groupama of him and Rudy Mollard as well, worthwhile mentioning. So I think Gregoire, you know, he's had some okay results recently as well. So worthwhile mentioning for sure. Velasco, another one who's sort of a top 15 candidate. It depends if they go with him or Battistella. Magnus Cort Nielsen. I just think that they'd go with Tobias Harlan Johannesson personally. Capio, I don't know who RK will be going with. Capio could certainly be that guy. He's done well over this sort of terrain in the past. Think back to like the Muscat Classic way back at the beginning of this season. Capio can do well over this sort of terrain. And Zimmerman, possibly. Again, he's just a bit like Rota, where he lacks that real snap, that real like acceleration, that killer sprint at the end. He could finish top 10 if he was just to lead it out, I suppose, and just go hard from quite far out. For 12s, Albanese, always worthwhile mentioning with these Italian races. Albanese, though, he's had a little bit of a checkered kind of on and off set of results in the last month or so. Some results have been really good inside the top 5 or at least a top 10, whereas, you know, some races are just a DNF or a 60th, 70th, so it's hard to gauge what kind of Albanese you're going to get on the day, but he's usually quite a safe one to be considering. And I would honestly say that Millard was looking really active at Il Lombardia. He was almost itching to go up the Sormano climb. And yeah, he was top 30 there. He was in the breakaway all day. I think that Millard could be pretty good, because he was third in the GP of Quebec. I know that they've got Gregoire here as well, so there's a little bit of a conflict of who's going to be the leader here, but I do feel a little bit bullish about Millard for this race, actually. I think that he could definitely snag a top 10. Into the 10s, Battistella, like I mentioned, came out of nowhere and came 7th in this race last year, so obviously previous performance does not, doesn't necessarily mean how they're going to be performing right now. And Calzone possibly, but again, another one who just hasn't been performing that well recently. Laurence has got all the trademarks of somebody who should be doing well in this race. It's just that his results just haven't been that great recently, and I honestly think that Maurice would be the better choice for Alpecin. Just based on recent results, I think that Laurence and I don't know. I feel more confident about Laurence and Maurice over, say, Grove. So Alpecin have got 3 riders that you've got to contend with, so that's a little bit more complicated. Maybe you just want to avoid them altogether just to avoid that drama, or, you know, I definitely think that one of them's going to be doing well. Bassato, you know, he's got a couple of top 10s recently in Italian races, but those were with flatter, you know, sprint finishes. So I don't know how he's going to go on an uphill finish, but in theory, he is quite a good sprinter come puncher, and I think that he should be getting inside the top 20 for sure. Marissa, like I've been going on about, I mean, he was what, fifth or something in Gran Piemonte, and then he was 10th at Il Lombardia, which is just incredible. And I think that Marissa, yeah, I mean, at this point of the season, if you're getting decent results, you're in good form, and therefore you are automatically in a different league to anybody else on the start list. So I think that Mauricio is a really good one to be picking. Those last 2 results, you know, they're not flukes, although he was in a break for both of them, but it shows that he's got the legs, and it's the sort of thing which is just quite hard to look past. I'd say the other 8s which I like are Aldani and Pelayo Sanchez. Aldani looks like more like the leader for Cofidis. Sanchez, I don't know who Movistar will be riding for, but Sanchez in theory fits the mould as somebody who should be doing well in this race. Into the 6s, speaking of Movistar, they could go with Jon Balanexia. He's done okay over similar terrain, but I'd say it's been a little bit easier, so I reckon they might go with Sanchez instead. Other ones who you might consider, I mean, Jonathan Lastra possibly can sometimes do okay in quite hilly terrain. Magley, honestly, you should probably consider. What was he, 4th in Gran Piemonte after getting over all those climbs and then sprinting at the end? That's quite a good indication for me. He's just been in like the top 20 of a lot of Italian races recently, and I think that Magley, if you're looking just to risk it all. If you're thousandth in the world and you don't care about your overall standings and you're just going for the win of this race, just for the plaudit of winning this race overall, then just go with Magli. Just throw it, just risk it all. Parasini, another one of the Q36.5 Italian puncher come sprinters. Him or Calzone could be inside the top 15. That's my expectation. I just don't know which one it'll be. Pellizzari, great performance from him at Il Lombardia. This route doesn't suit him as much because it is more based upon your sprint. So I would probably stay away from him just based on that. But, like I said, form is form. So he might do well just based on that alone. And then into the fours, you got Depreto. If you don't think that Matthews will be doing that well because of his recent results, maybe you want to go with Depreto. Just because. And you might go with Pinarello. If it's not going to be Magli, it'll be Pinarello because he's actually been in some decent moves recently as well. I think he was in that move, which he was in the Coppa Bonocchi move. The one which Stan Van Tlicht won. I think he was in that group, but he got dropped because he was so gassed in the sprint. And that's pretty much it for the riders. I know this start list isn't complete at the moment. There are still teams to be announced, but I'm going out this evening and I'm not waiting around for the start list to be announced. I'm sorry. So this is the team which I have at the moment. This is what I would consider to be the safe team. If you are just not wanting to take any risks and this is going to be a team which isn't going to win overall because you're going to miss out on the random Italian who's going to finish in 5th place. But it's just covers all the bases of it. Covers pretty much. This is probably, I haven't looked at the bookies, but this is probably 6 people inside the top 10 for the bookies. So I'd say that this is a really safe team to be going with. If I was to go a little bit braver, I might not go with Gregoire. I might go with Mollard. I might even swap out somebody like Matthews, to be honest with you. I might even go crazy enough where I put in Magli. Or I might not go as crazy and go with Gregoire or something like that. And the other team doesn't cost 100, but I think that's just the way it's going to go. So let me know what you're thinking in the comment sections down below. Are you thinking of using 100 credits or not for your team? And just how risky are you going to play this one? Are you looking to try and crack into the top 10 of the overall? Are you looking to try and win this race? Let me know what you're thinking in the comment sections down below. I will try and respond to comments later this evening, but I might have a few pints in me, so who knows how good my advice will be. But all that is left to say is to stay safe out there, drink responsibly, and I will see you in the next video. Salut!